Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope that you're well. If you're new here, my name is Emily and today I'm going to share some new witchy spiritual books that have come into my collection over the last few months. So I now have a huge reading pile, which is probably going to take me a while, but I'm so excited and I just had to get my hands on all of these books. So it's been kind of a book heavy few months, I must say, but you know, I am just so excited by all of these books. So I'm just going to get straight on into it. So first up, at the beginning of the year, I said the only book that I wanted to get this year was this book, Rebel Witch by Kellyanne Maddox, and I pre-ordered this and obviously it arrived, you know, probably a couple of months ago now, a month and a bit, and I haven't cracked into it yet, but I think this is going to be one that I'm just going to read so quickly because I absolutely love Kellyanne's channel. When I discovered her a few years ago, I just like binge watched everything on her channel. I love her voice, I love the way she speaks, and I love her ethos and everything about the way that she witches, and I just think this is going to be a fantastic book for me to read. I know there's been lots and lots of talk in the community about this. This just looks fantastic and I'm just so excited. I think this is just going to be the perfect addition to my witchy bookshelf and just a lovely way to get excited again about certain practices. So I'm excited to read this first. Next up is Wild Magic by Danu Forrest. This is Celtic folk traditions for the solitary practitioner, and I read and loved Celtic Tree Magic by Danu Forrest. It is one of my favourite books because I live in England, in Devon. I have kind of a folk magic tradition practice. I'd say green witchery, hedge witchery, you know, hearth magic, that kind of practice, and I'm working a lot with tree energy and plant spirit energy, and so this was kind of a no-brainer when I saw that this was new. I mean, there's so much in here and there's these beautiful illustrations, raising the wind, lots and lots of fantastic information about the different elements, the earth, the sea. So obviously following the Celtic tradition, I believe more Irish Celtic, which is more the path that I'm sort of following, but I am obviously in England. I do have some ancestry from Ireland and I have some kind of Norse Germanic ancestry as well, so I kind of like to learn about both, but I do very much work with kind of where I am and the spirits of place, genius loci and all that. So I am in England, in Devon, so I'm very invested in this land as well, but I also work with the Morrigan and I love learning about Ireland and Irish traditions, and I've still never been, but I'm really hoping to do a pilgrimage to some of the sacred sites like the Cave of the Cats, which is sacred to the Morrigan, and some of the other sites as well. That is something that I would really love to do. But so this is just a book that I think is just going to really help to deepen my knowledge and practice in that area. So I'm very interested in folk, witchcraft and magic, and an author that I've never read before is Raven Grimassi. I've obviously heard a lot about Raven Grimassi and I've seen that Raven Grimassi has a lot of books, and I've heard lots of people speaking about this practitioner, this author, and I just thought that this would be a great book to kind of try out and see if it resonates. And it has got some things in it that just seem very resonant for me. So it's working with different plant spirits in here. Obviously this is Italian folk witchcraft, but it is more traditional witchcraft, Grimoire of the Thorn-Blooded Witch, mastering the 5 arts of the old world witchery. And I thought that that would be a good place to start, to see if I like the author and the way that they write before sort of going further. I thought that this would be a really good one to start with, so I'm excited about this one. And isn't it just a beautiful cover? I believe this is a pre-Raphaelite painting. I love it. Next up is Psychic Vampires, Protection from Energy, Predators and Parasites by Joe H. Slate, PhD. I saw that Damien Eccles recommended this on one of his recent videos. I absolutely love listening to him and learning from him. He's just so full of wisdom and knowledge, and he recommended this as a fantastic protection book. So I thought I'd pick it up, and I actually found it for just a couple of pounds. This was secondhand. It doesn't look it though at all, but this was just secondhand from Amazon. So I thought I'd pick it up because it was so inexpensive and because he recommended it, and it looks like there's lots of steps and exercises you can do in here, and I thought that this would just really help, because I think that being an empath and such, and many people within this community obviously feel that they are, sometimes I think it's very difficult to protect yourself, and sometimes there's not time to. I often find that I don't have time in the morning to always do the shields that I want to before I go out and say do the school run, and then it's inevitably those days when you get weird things happening to you. So I think it just behooves me to learn more and more about this. And actually, I know that some people kind of think of protection magic being kind of boring, but I actually find it so interesting, and I find it really fun as well, especially this kind of like psychic protection work. So I'm really excited to read this, especially because Damien Eccles recommended it and spoke of it in a very positive way. Next up is Folk Witchcraft. This kept getting recommended to me on Amazon. I read Kelden's The Crooked Path, and I think since then this has just been recommended over and over again. This is a guide to Lore, Land and the Familiar Spirit for the Solitary Practitioner by Roger J. Horn, and I just love the way that this is laid out. The font is so beautiful. Complete with practical exercises, in-depth descriptions of craft theories and models, hand-drawn illustrations and the author's working grimoire, Folk Witchcraft provides the student witch with a thorough introduction to the old craft that is firmly rooted in the past but adapted for the present. Experienced witches will deepen and enrich their practices by connecting more fully to traditional magics from hundreds of years in the past. So there's lots and lots of interesting information in here, some stuff that I can learn: spirit flight, ritual construction, animal spirits, seasons, Sabbats, shape-shifting, learning the land, plant spirits, plant work, and it's all quite concise. I feel like it's going to be meaty though. Pop it, and there's little illustrations, the 9 herb charm. So to protect against maleficium and wicked spirits, talismans. So talismanic magic is something I'm so interested in at the moment. Learning more and more about these sort of higher magics is definitely something that I'm also really interested in and delving deeper in and deepening my knowledge and understanding to help to inform and enrich my practice even more. So along a similar line is Traditional Witchcraft, A Cornish Book of Ways by Gemma Gary. I read Silent as the Trees, which is about Devon by Gemma Gary a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed it. It was so full of lore and interesting stories. This is more about the practice of traditional witchcraft, I believe, but obviously based in kind of Cornish folk witchery, and because I am in Devon and very, very close to Cornwall, this I think will really, really resonate and ring true. So I'm very excited to read this because it has had such great reviews from people. People have talked about this so much, and knowing that I like to read Gemma Gary's style, I'm very, very excited to read this. It's been on my list for a very long time. So I think this might have to go to the top of the list actually. Another one that's been recommended a lot for traditional witchcraft is Nigel J. Pearson's Treading the Mill, Workings in Traditional Witchcraft. Again, I think this is going to be a really meaty deep dive into the topic, the subject, and it's just getting more and more knowledge and information and understanding about what these practitioners did and how they worked, and just getting more and more familiar with the practice because it resonates with me and it just feels like the right thing to be learning about. I mean, there's so many books here. How long is this going to take me? But quite a while, I think. So I was going to do a review of this book. This is A Spell in the World by Alice Tarbuck. I've actually read half of this book. Now, I have this as an audiobook, and I purchased this at the beginning of the year as an audiobook so that I could get to sleep because I was struggling to sleep a little bit during the start of the lockdown in England when we were homeschooling again. I was having a lot of anxiety and struggling to sleep, and so when I wanted to listen to something that was kind of calming but also interesting for me, I thought I'd pick this up, and I'm so glad I did. But then my mum picked this up for me as a gift, not knowing that I already had the audiobook. I do have a subscription to Audible and I'm listening to several books on there at the moment, several different books, but this I picked up on iTunes actually because it was just before I got my Audible subscription. So this book is A Year and 6 Centuries of Magic. So this book is written by writer, editor and academic based in Edinburgh, Dr. Alice Tarbuck. It says here she read English literature at Emmanuel College, Cambridge, received a doctorate from the University of Dundee. Her work on witchcraft has been featured in 404 Inc.'s Nasty Women and the Dangerous Women project. She runs Toil and Trouble, a witchcraft course. So there's lots and lots of things that Alice Tarbuck has done, and listening to this is just, it was so calming and soothing, and the audio version is actually read by Alice, so her voice is beautiful to listen to. And I think that's, I listened to a preview and I was like, yes, this is gonna help me get to sleep. Yeah, it's fantastic. It goes through the year according to where the author lives in the world. So it talks about Edinburgh here, and so living in the city, but how to forage and such in the city, and then different things going into the burning times and the way that witches, or the way that people were persecuted for being witches, all of that information. There's a chapter here on sex magic. It actually goes really deep into a lot of things that you wouldn't think, but it's just a really nice way to structure a book like this. So this is kind of, I guess, a mini review because I haven't completely finished it, but I'm just really glad to have a copy of it in hardback as well, because there are some lovely spells in here, and I think this would be a perfect book for a young witch, a young or new witch who's just beginning in their practice and wants something that's going to excite them and resonate for them if they live in the city, say. And I think that this is a really exciting way to learn and be inspired to create your own spells and magic and to live in a magical way. The way Alice talks, a lot of it is actually about living every day in a magical way, less about kind of the bells and whistles and the spells and such, but more about being magical as yourself, you know, actually the magic being in you, and that's just really, really lovely. So I cannot wait to finish this. It's a really lovely book. So Tarot, a classic. This is by Eden Gray, A Complete Guide to the Tarot. And I picked this up actually because I thought potentially this could have been the very first book I read on the tarot. When I first read about tarot, I had a secondhand book that I picked up from a bookshop, and I don't remember what book it was. At one point I thought it was one book that I've got, another point I thought it was a different book, and then I thought it could have been this book because the front was quite similar, but I'm just not entirely sure at all, to be honest. But I picked this up because I know obviously Eden Gray is, you know, a prolific writer from years back around tarot, and I just thought this would be a really, really good guidebook to have. It's very much just written as a, you know, these are the meanings, but again, I haven't read it, so there's probably much more depth to go into here. It looks like there's information here about the Tree of Life, the 10 Sephira, the pillars, yeah, the Tree of Life, Tarot, and the Kabbalah. So it goes into that as well. This is going to be a really, really good thing to have and delve deeper into. So this is on the list. It's probably not at the top of the list, but I will get to it eventually. I'm very glad that I've got it. As for whether it was the first book I read, I don't know. I'm not sure. It's a mystery. I wish I knew. Next up is the Keys to Perception, and this is a practical guide to psychic development. This is another area that I am working on developing. I read Matt Oren's Psychic Witch, which I love. I know a lot of other people love that book as well, and this was recommended, and so I thought I'd pick this up too. I would quite like to do a psychic and mediumship course. At the moment, with moving house and time being a factor with the kids and stuff, a course probably isn't the right way to go. So I'm thinking reading is my education at the moment, but then I would really like to do a practical course, and so I figure as much as I can read at the moment is going to help to inform me and help me to learn more when I do embark on a course. So I don't think I said this is by Ivo Dominguez Jr. So yeah, this says many different systems and traditions of magic, divination, spirituality, and esoteric religion exist, but at their core they share the need for practitioners to safely and successfully experience the reality that lies beyond the physical senses. Keys to Perception, a practical guide to psychic development, is a collection of proven and tested methods, rituals, and systems that will help you to deepen and clarify your capacity to sense and understand the rich worlds beyond the veils of the ordinary. The material in this book derives from decades of work by the author and his students. So this is going to be fantastic, I think. Next up is Plant Lore, Legends and Lyrics, Embracing the Myths and Traditions by Richard Faucard, and this is a Forgotten Books reprinting. And so this was a very old book. This was originally published in 1884, and this was published by Forgotten Books in 2012, so it was republished, and I'm so glad. But you can see how this was originally written, the type of it. It's basically like someone's just photocopied it and reprinted it essentially, and so there are some sort of odd languagey bits within the book, but there's so much in here about the different legends and lore around different plants, so I thought this is just something I do need as I deepen my practice with herbs. There's a lot in here. It's intense. There's so much. It's a big book, so I think this is going to be one that I sort of more dip in and out of, but I would like to sit down and sort of read some of the chapters at the beginning to sort of get a handle on the way that the book is structured. But yeah, digitally remastered, it says. There's so much in here, it's intense, just look at it. It's a big, big book. So this year I've actually thrown myself headfirst into my astrology studies. I actually thought that I'd be studying some other things a bit more deeper, but it turns out that astrology is where I have spent most of my time, I think, studying, and I decided it was time to pick up Chris Brannen's Hellenistic Astrology, the study of fate and fortune, because I really do enjoy the astrology podcast and I'm learning more and more, and I think that reading this will give me a taste of what his course entails, and I am looking for a course. I am interested in Chris Brennan's course as well as a couple of other astrologers' courses, and I'm interested in taking a course. I will probably take an astrology course before I take a psychic development course, so that just gives you an idea of like how I'm hoping to prioritize the things I want to learn, because there's a lot. But yeah, this is something I haven't started yet. This just goes through all of the origins and the details around Hellenistic astrology, and then it goes into the history as well of Mesopotamia and Egyptian astrology, so the rediscovery of astrology, then all about the charts and such. So this is going to be a big read, I think, but this is going to be one of the ones that's on the top of the list as well. Another astrology related text is the Complete Picatrix, the occult classic of astrological magic, translated by John Michael Greer and Christopher Warnock. I wanted to get this because I actually have a digital copy, but I wanted one that I could open and read. I'm very, very interested in chart remediation and using talismans, talismanic magic, in order to remediate a chart or a particular transit at a particular time, and that's something that I'm really interested in delving into alongside astrological studies, so bringing the two together. So whilst my magical practice might not be high ceremonial magic, I want to learn more about the making of talismans and such, so that I can apply that with my magical workings and then use it alongside astrological workings and planetary correspondences and such. So I'm really looking to kind of like bring these elements into my practice in a way that works for me. And so I want to read this text because it is obviously a classic. This says the Picatrix is the most famous grimoire of astrological magic and one of the most important works of medieval and Renaissance magic, with all 4 books complete in 1 volume, translated and annotated by the noted scholars, magicians and astrologers John Michael Greer and Christopher Warnock. Picatrix, it takes its rightful place as an essential occult text for modern esoterics. Picatrix is an encyclopedic work with over 300 pages of hermetic magical philosophy, ritual, talismanic and natural magic. Greer and Warnock's complete translation is clear and lucid with numerous annotations. So it feels like this is just a really important text to have, and this is going to be one that's quite high up on the reading list as well. But again, a really intense one, so probably one that I'm going to have to nurse for a while whilst reading slightly lighter, more potentially enjoyable texts while I learn. I'm really glad to have this as well. Next up, 2 books that I got in the Witches book subscription. This is the Herbal Alchemist Handbook and Entering Hecate's Garden. I recently started working for the Witches box, so it's really, really amazing because I'm doing what I do and love, but I'm also doing it around the area that I love and that resonates with me, and I really love the business, the company. So it's been incredible, and I got sent these as part of the recent box. This one is Entering Hecate's Garden, The Magic, Medicine, Mystery of Plant Spirit, Witchcraft by Cyndi Brannen. I have Keeping Her Keys by Cyndi Brannen, which is about working with Hekate, which is a fantastic book. This goes into, obviously, Hecate's Garden, so working more practically with the plant spirits that are associated with Hekate and Pharmakeia. And I'm very, very excited to read this because I love Cyndi Brannen. I think she's incredible. Her writing is fantastic. She does blogs for Patheos as well. You can read a little bit about her work and Keeping Her Keys there as well if you haven't read either of those books. I'm so excited to read this. And the second book was the Herbal Alchemist Handbook, a complete guide to magical herbs and how to use them by Karen Harrison. A foreword from Aaron Murphy Hiscock, author of The Green Witch, which is a very popular book as well. And I think that, yeah, this is again just another fantastic book that's going to help inform my herbal practice and understanding and learning and growing, because I think there's always going to be more herbs to learn about, more lore to learn about, more ways to understand and incorporate them. So I think that this is going to be really interesting. Here you've got combining the planetary and elemental influences. So working with custom formulas to balance, transform, empower and manifest. And you've got the different herbs of Mars, the Moon, the Sun, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, etc. So it all kind of holistically comes together, which I love. So all of these tomes right here, I think I need to work out a reading list order. I'm just finishing off the book that I'm reading at the moment, and so after that I think I want to go into this one first actually, and then this will probably be one that I have to work on, and then I think I want to read this alongside because these two are high up on the list. Then I think this one potentially, and this one, but they are all high up on the list. But you can see I am literally like, I am surrounded by books. So I need to read. But obviously there's only so many hours in the day. I have 2 children, I have a job, I have life, home, family to look after, and a practice of my own to maintain, as well as this YouTube channel and my original YouTube channel. So what I will say is, obviously I'm not going to be able to read these all straight away and give you a review, but if there's any particular book that you want a review on, then let me know and I will put that one further to the top and read it quicker. There are a few more books that I do want to pick up, but I think it's getting very, very full now. My bookshelf is very, very full, so I really need to slow down, read some books, and then potentially move a few of the other ones along before getting more, or potentially look into getting some on Audible or Kindle or something. But yeah, it's just the way that things are at the moment. So I am so excited by this amazing stack of books. I cannot wait to get started with them, and I hope that you enjoyed the video, you found something interesting here. If there's any of these books that you'd like to read yourself, I'd love to hear below, or if you've read them and you've got any thoughts on them, I'd love to hear those as well. If you want to leave me a comment, I'd love to hear from you. If you did enjoy the video, please do click the like button and give the video a thumbs up, and send it to anyone who you think would enjoy the video as well. Also, if you'd like to see more from me along the lines of tarot, witchcraft, magic and spirituality, then please do think about subscribing, and while you're subscribing, don't forget to hit that little bell notification as well, because that's how YouTube will let you know when I create and upload videos like this. So thank you again so much for joining me. I hope that you stay well and safe, and I look forward to seeing you in another video really soon. Take care. Bye. Mwah.